Welcome back to the WHHI News. Hurricane season gets underway in June, and we have someone here from the town of Hilton Head, Shari Mendrick. She's a floodplain administrator. She's going to let us know how we can be prepared as far as floods and being aware. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Allie.
What do we need to know about flood hazards in our area?
Well, you have to remember that the town of Hilton Head Island is a barrier island on the Atlantic coast.
Right. Which means?
Which means that we are isolated. You have to drive over a bridge to get here.
Yes.
So we are not connected to land, but because we are right on the Atlantic Ocean, we do have, other than just rainfall, we do have threats from hurricanes, from storm surge, and also from those heavy rains. And because we're so low-lying, we could potentially have drainage issues that get coupled up with all those, with extra rainfall.
Sure, and I know people that were here during Matthew and some of the tropical storms we've had. We know what can happen. But talk to me about flood insurance. There's been a lot of discussion. Boy, the rates really went up with all these hurricanes, either going through Florida or, or near us, et cetera, and so forth. The first thing is, what do I have to know about where I live?
Well, the first thing that you need to know is what your flood zone is, because that determines whether you have to carry flood insurance or not.
Okay.
So there is a federal mandate called the Federal Purchase Requirement that if you're in a high-risk flood zone, you are required to carry flood insurance if you have a mortgage on your home.
Okay. How many zones are there, say, in our area on Hilton Head Island?
In our area, there's 5 zones.
Okay.
You have low and moderate risk zones, which are X and shaded X zones.
Okay.
Then you have high risk zones, which are zones AE. We also have areas of shallow flooding, which occurs behind our dune system. And then we also have coastal high hazard zones, which are called VE zones.
I'm glad you know all of this, but
Yes.
I know you're going to be mailing out. I want to let people know information on this beginning of June, so people will be able to tell, or they can actually look up what zone I am in, correct?
That is correct, or you can give me a call.
Really?
And I can tell you what your flood zone is.
You're going to be flooded. Sorry,
That's
you're going to be flooded by calls. That's really
I'm
bad,
used to
Shari.
it.
I'm sorry. Okay, let's talk about what information you need to have in order to get flood insurance, and where do you get it? I'll let you tackle both of those.
Yes, so the first thing that you need to know is whether you have to carry flood insurance or not. Then the next thing that you really need to look at is what's called an elevation certificate, and that tells how high your house is built above the ground and above that flood zone, and that helps determine the flood insurance rate. Okay. Flood insurance can be procured through any insurance agent. I prefer that our residents contact somebody local just because they're familiar with the process.
Absolutely.
And there are 2 different markets for flood insurance. There is a FEMA market for flood insurance, which is a set cost, but there is also flood insurance that's in the private market, and it's just like shopping for your car insurance.
Now, when you talk about elevation, most of the new construction now you will see is raised up off the ground so many feet. Is that due to the fact that it's going to protect the home or whatever building it is from flooding, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we put those elevation requirements in place.
Okay.
And actually, we regulate to higher standards than the minimum that's required by FEMA. So we actually regulate the building elevations in all flood zones. So whether you're in one of those high risk or moderate risk zones, you're still going to probably have to come off the ground just a little bit. And that's to try to protect our property and our property owners.
Right. Well, that's really interesting. I want to ask you, though, what is the best way for me in the event we're going to have some event, flooding, et cetera? What are the best things for me to do to be prepared or protect myself or my family?
Well, first of all, please listen to local officials' guidance about evacuation orders and the timing of the storm. We have a great emergency manager who gets information out. Yep, absolutely. Gets information out as quickly as he can. If you decide that you're not going to go, which I don't encourage that, please remove all valuables from the lower floor of your home. Put them in a safe place that's on your upper levels, but really take them with you.
If you're going to evacuate.
Yes, because don't forget, these happen during the summertime, and a lot of people don't realize if you don't have power, you don't have air conditioning. And it gets a little stuffy here.
I'll tell you, I did know a few people during Matthew that did not evacuate who, looking back, very much regretted it. It was not an easy time.
No. It was not.
So, okay,
it's hot, it's sticky, it's wet.
Enough wetness, but let's talk about safety issues too, because you were telling me that the number one cause of death from flooding is drowning, but what's the other one? It's electrocution?
Electrocution, and that's actually from walking through floodwaters. People don't realize that there could be down wires that are in the floodwaters, and you can very easily get electrocuted.
Oh, I did not realize that was the number 2 reason. So you really just got to avoid doing that, right?
Yes, and 6 inches of flowing water can sweep you off your feet. And
People don't think about
realize
that either, do they?
Snakes, that's another
Well,
thing
we
too.
don't need to
Critters
mention
in the
the
water.
snakes either. Do you have like information that you feel is absolutely essential, other than knowing my zone, knowing I should be signed up probably for alerts from the town? I know you can
Yes.
get emails or texts and the like, or be tuned into weather, either from a
Yes.
TV or radio, or if you have a weather radio, so you know what's going on. Anything else you think is important at all?
Well, it's very important that you do think about, if you live on the island, have flood insurance.
Right.
Because that is so much better than federal disaster assistance. Because federal disaster assistance, you only get a small amount of money, or a small business administration loan. You have to pay that back. But if you have flood insurance, that's going to cover the cost. And it's also going to help you repair your home much faster.
Shari Mendrick, we're out of time. You have some great information, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the WHHI News. I'm Allie McNair. We'll see you the next time.